The warehouse smelled like salt and engine oil. Rain tapped the rusty roof like fast fingers. In the wide open space, yellow bulbs swung from wires, throwing long shadows across wooden crates. A woman in a torn blouse stood in the middle of the floor, breathing hard. Her name was Ada. Her eyes were fixed on the man who had led her there. Kola, the same man who once held her hand and promised to make her a wife when her pain finally ended. Between them, a small bag lay split open. Clothes had spilled out. On top of the pile sat a pink scarf with tiny silver stars. The scarf Ada's daughter and Kem wore on the day she vanished. 2 guards in black stood near a metal door. Their faces were cold, like shut gates. Behind the door, Ada heard a thin voice. It sounded like a child's cry trying to turn into a word. Her stomach twisted. "Kola," Ada said, voice shaking. "What did you do?" Kola didn't answer. He only looked at the scarf and at the money banded in crisp notes on a crate beside him. His smile was no longer soft. It was tight and small like a padlock. "You said when my divorce was done, we would marry," Ada whispered. "You ate in my home. You prayed with us. You tucked Kem into bed." Kola finally spoke, almost bored. "You should not have asked so many questions," he said. "People like me need clean exits." The words hit her like cold water. Ada took a step forward, fists clenched. Thunder growled outside. Just then, the metal door shook from the inside. A bolt scraped. A thin voice broke through, a single word, high and scared. "Mummy!" Ada ran. One guard moved to block her. The other reached for the crate with the money. Kola turned his face away, like he couldn't stand to see what he himself had done. Ada threw her shoulder into the door. The bolt slipped. The door began to open. Before we continue, please like and subscribe, and let us know where you're watching from. Chapter 1. The morning Ada signed the last paper for her divorce, Legos felt too loud and too bright. The registrar stamped the document, and the sound was sharp, like a gavel. Ada stepped outside with her daughter, and Kem, who was 14 and skinny and proud of the new braids she had twisted the night before. They walked to a roadside stall where a woman sold hot puff-puff and soft drinks from a cooler. "Is it over?" Kem asked, tearing the puff-puff and blowing on the steam. "It is over," Ada said. The words were simple, but they shook inside her. She had tried to build a happy home. She had tried to make things right. But some marriages end like a candle that won't take a flame no matter how long you hold a match. It was not just the fights. It was the fear. Kem had seen too much anger. Ada promised herself. No more storms inside their small home. They ate in silence. Cars passed. A boy danced between Okadas with a bucket of sachet water on his head. Ada glanced at her phone. A message sat at the top of the screen from Kola. "Proud of you. New chapter now. I'm here. Dinner tonight?" A small smile tugged at Ada's mouth. Kola had come into their lives at church. First as a friend from the choir. He was kind in small ways that counted. He fixed a broken fan without being asked. He returned Ada's change exactly to the last naira. He brought extra jollof in Kem's school open day and clapped the loudest when she read her poem. He knew about the divorce and never pushed, never hurried. He waited. "Will Kola still marry you?" Kem asked, cheeks still pink from the hot snack. Her voice was careful, like she wasn't sure if the question would break something. Ada tucked the braid behind Kem's ear. "He says so, but we will go slow. Slow like molasses," Kem said, grinning, using a word she had learned from a book. They laughed, and for a moment, it felt like the city paused and let them breathe. That night, Kola cooked. He wore an apron with a silly cartoon pepper on it, and he hummed a worship song as he stirred stew. The smell of tomatoes and thyme filled Ada's kitchen. And Kem washed plates at the sink, and Kola flicked foam at her, making her squeal. "To a clean slate," Kola said later, raising his glass of malt. "To peace, and to doing things the right way." He looked at Ada the way men look in music videos, eyes warm, a promise, sitting there like a gift on Sunday morning. Ada felt seen. She felt steady. It was a simple human wish, to be believed when you say, "I am trying my best." Kola believed her, or he made it look that way. Days slipped into a new routine. Ada worked at the pharmacy on the corner of Attleboro Street. She wore a white coat, counted pills, and listened to old women talk about knees and sons and God's timing. And Kim went to school, practiced her drawing, and tied her scarf with the little silver stars every morning, saying it was her lucky piece. Sometimes Cola drove them to evening service. Sometimes he dropped a bag of yam and oranges on her doorstep with a note, "For my favorite girls." He never stayed late. "I respect the child," he said, "and the house." He made plans for small things, fixing a cupboard, painting the living room a soft color, but he also spoke in gentle hints about big things. "After this storm, I will go see my family," he told Ada. "I'll tell them we will do it properly." "You mean?" "Yes," he said, "marriage, but when you are ready." They did not rush. They made Saturday pancakes instead. They watched a silly comedy with Cam. They prayed. They believed. Then one Monday, Cola came to the pharmacy near closing time. He wore a blue shirt, iron flat. His eyes were too bright. "Ada," he said, "there's a program I heard about for girls who like art and also science. They help with school fees and give them a tablet and art supplies. It is run by a charity. They are taking students to a weekend camp for tests." "A camp?" Ada frowned. "Where?" "Just outside town," Cola said. "Benin City. Transport is covered, and a woman from the charity is traveling with the girls. Only 3 from this area can go. I told them about Nkem's drawings. I showed them the pictures she made of the rainy market. They want to see her." Ada's heart rose and fell at once. She wanted good things from Nkem, but strange weight on her chest. "Why so fast?" "They gave late notice," Cola said. "You know how these things are. If it is not for you, it will go to someone with uncle in the office." He smiled, not unkindly. "Let me protect the door that opened. Can we check the website?" Ada asked. They sent a PDF. He said, "Pull his phone." The text looked official. There was a name, a logo, a picture of happy girls in blue T-shirts. Still, Ada's gut said, "Ask more questions." "Let me pray," Ada said, "and let me call them." "Of course," Cola said. He handed her a printed form. "Take your time. But the bus leaves on Friday morning." That night, after Nkem slept, Ada sat with her laptop. She typed the charity's name. A website popped up. It was clean, simple. A contact number was there. She called. A woman answered in a calm voice and confirmed a camp in Benin City that weekend. Ada exhaled. "Is there an age limit?" she asked. 13 to 16, the woman said. "And you travel with the girls?" "Yes, we do," the woman said. "Why?" "No reason," Ada said, forcing a smile into her voice. On Thursday, Nkem packed 2 T-shirts, a sketchbook, and her scarf with the silver stars. She danced around the small room. "Mummy, maybe they will love my art and give me a new set of pencils," she said. "The fancy ones with many greens." Ada laughed. "Amen." She kissed Nkem's forehead and breathed her in. Cola arrived early Friday, calm and helpful. He loaded the small bag into his car. "We have to pick up the other girls before the bus station," he said. "The charity coordinator will meet us there. I spoke to her." He handed Ada a paper ticket with Legos, Benin printed on it. It looked real. They drove through morning traffic. The city looked like a swarm of colors. The bright kiki, the women with cloth baskets on their heads, the hawkers holding phone chargers. Cola played soft music. He asked Nkem about her drawings. He said all the right words. At the bus park, noise blasted, shouts, horn beeps, the hiss of air brakes. A woman in a yellow ghillie waved and walked toward them. "You're Ada?" she asked, smiling. "I am Mrs. Grace, the coordinator." She shook Ada's hand and then bent to smile at Nkem. "Are you ready, star girl?" Nkem beamed. The woman wore a badge that matched the logo on the PDF. Ada relaxed a little. Cola stood beside her and squeezed her hand. "I told you," he whispered. An announcer called departures. People rushed. Mrs. Gray said, "The bus is about to go. We need to check them in fast." She took Nkem's ticket and the tickets of 2 other girls who had arrived with their parents. She led the girls toward a side gate. Parents, please stay here, she said kindly. We've got it. The gate is crowded. Ada watched Nkem walk away, the silver star scarf bobbing. Kola stayed. He did not try to sneak off. That made Ada trust more. She looked away for 1 second to pick up her ringing phone. It was her sister, Uju, checking if they had left. When Ada looked back, the girls were at the gate with Mrs. Grace. The woman flashed a hand sign to a guard, like a signal. Ada almost missed it. The crowd moved, a heavy push. A bus engine coughed to life. Ada stood on her toes. She saw Nkem turn once and wave. Ada waved back till her arm hurt. Let me walk and make sure they get on, Kola said. You stay here. The crowd is rough. I will be back. Ada hesitated. Okay. Kola slipped through bodies like a fish. He reached the gate. He reached Mrs. Grace. He said something to her. She nodded. He took out his wallet. Money changed hands. Ada's breath stopped. Why pay now? She thought. Wasn't the transport covered? She tried to move closer. A man wheeled a car in front of her, blocking the view. She stepped left. The bus coughed again and pulled forward, not toward the main exit but around the back, as if to turn. Ada ran, heart thudding. She reached the side of the bus and slapped the window, trying to see inside. The glass was tinted. She couldn't spot the silver star scarf. Kola, she shouted. Where are they going? He didn't answer. He stood with Mrs. Grace, counting notes with quick fingers. The woman's smile had faded. Ada's fear turned into hard heat. She pushed past a man selling plantain chips and reached Kola. What is this? She demanded. Relax, he said too fast. They are loading luggage at the back. Mrs. Grace's eyes slid away. Something inside Ada shouted, this is wrong. She sprinted to the back of the lot. There was no luggage area. The bus turned left, toward a narrow gate that opened to a street that didn't look like a bus route at all. Her chest burned. She ran harder, feet slapping the wet ground. Her phone buzzed. A text came from Nkem. Mummy, the bus is small. It smells funny. Where's the lady? Ada stopped breathing. She typed, where are you? No reply. She hit call. No answer. She turned and ran back to Kola. He and Mrs. Grace were walking toward a row of parked vehicles. Stop. Ada shouted. They did not stop. Ada grabbed Kola's arm. Where's my child? He stared at her blankly. Then the blankness sharpened into something hard. Do you want to marry me or not? He said in a low voice. Do you want a future, or do you want to shout in public like a market woman? Ada went cold. That was not Kola's voice. Or maybe it was, and she had never heard it before. She shoved him away and ran to the gate guard. Where did the bus go? The guard shrugged. Different buses use that road when the front is busy, he said, bored. Ada rushed to the main office. Which company is that bus? She asked, pointing. The woman behind the desk shook her head. Not ours, she said. Ask outside. Ada ran outside. Rain began, light at first. She saw the bus's taillights as it turned onto a side street and vanished behind a blue warehouse. She ran in that direction. Traffic pressed like a living thing. Her sandals slipped on the wet ground. She reached the corner and found the blue warehouse. A small metal door stood open. A man with a shaved head leaned there. Smoking? Did a bus just come this way? Ada asked out of breath. The man blew smoke and said nothing. Kola! Ada screamed into the rain, voice cracking. Nkem! Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered with shaking fingers. Hello. A flat male voice said, Your daughter is safe. Do not call the police. We will call you. The line went dead. Ada's vision blurred. For a second, the world tilted. She leaned on the wall, forcing air into her chest. She called Nkem again. No answer. She called Kola. He did not pick up. She turned to run back to the bus park and almost collided with Kola. He stood dry under an umbrella. His eyes were empty of all the soft things he had shown for months. Come home, he said, voice low. They will contact us. If you make trouble, it will cost more. Cost? Ada stared at him. What have you done? Who are they? People who can help? he said, then corrected himself. Too late. People who listen, Ada, this is not the time to act mad. Ada's mind flew through 1,000 memories like rough pages. Cola's neat notes, Cola's careful respect. Cola chatted with the usher who always stood near the church door. Cola's trips for work. Cola always knowing a driver, a guard, a cousin of a cousin. The pieces started to turn, slowly, like locks falling into place. You promised to marry me, she said, voice thin. Cola's mouth twitched. I kept my word as long as it was helpful. Helpful for what? For business, he said, and then he smiled. Small, cruel. You gave me trust. I used it. That is life. Ada lifted her hand and slapped him. The sound cracked the air. The smoking man at the warehouse chuckled. Cola's eyes flashed, but he didn't hit back. He only stepped close enough for her to feel his breath. If you go to the police, you will never see her again, he said. These are not fools. Do you understand? Ada understood many things in that moment. She understood that the world could switch masks in one breath. She understood that love could be used like a key to open a door, and behind that door could be a trap. She understood the feeling of not being believed, because even as she ran back to the bus park, shouting for help, people looked at her like she was making noise, like she was a woman with bad luck and too much drama. By the time she reached the bus park office again, the rain had grown heavy. The woman at the desk frowned. Madam, please calm down. My child, Ada choked. They took my child through the side gate. Call someone. Call security. Call anyone. The woman sighed and picked up a radio. A bored voice replied. Someone eventually went to check. The minutes dragged like heavy sacks. The guard returned, shrugging. No bus there, he said. Maybe it went out the other way. Ada's hand shook. She pressed her palms into her eyes until stars blinked. She breathed. She made a choice. She went to her bag, pulled out a small notebook where she wrote grocery lists and prayer points, and she wrote down everything she remembered. Time, colors, faces, the tag number Cola's car, the tilt of the bus logo, the woman's gelly, the guard scar over his eyebrow. She wrote like her pen was a rope and she was climbing out of a well. Then she walked to the police station. The officer at the front desk listened with a tired face. He glanced at Ada's divorce paper, at her wet blouse, at her shaking hands. Maybe the girl ran away with friends, he said gently, as if kindly telling her she had overreacted. She did not, Ada said. Her voice was a quiet knife. A man I trusted sold my daughter. Sold. His eyebrows rose. Ada nodded. Into trafficking, she said, the word feeling like stones in her mouth. He promised to marry me. He used that to reach my child. He paid a woman at the bus park. They took her through a side gate to a blue warehouse. The officer's face changed. He did not know if he believed her yet, but the word trafficking made the air colder. He stood and called someone from the back. A slim woman in plain clothes stepped out. Her eyes were sharp, her hijab neat. She looked like someone who kept files tidy, and the truth even tidier. I am Detective Amina Yusuf, she said. Let's talk. They went into a small office that smelled of paper and rain. Ada told the story again, slower, with the notebook open. She showed the text from the unknown number. She showed Cola's message about the camp. She showed the PDF. Amina listened without interrupting, and every so often she wrote with a black pen, her letters small and steady. Do you have a photo of your daughter? Amina asked. Ada pulled up a picture in Kim in her silver star scarf, teeth bright, eyes fierce. She passed the phone across the desk. Amina stared at the picture for a long beat, then nodded once, like a quiet promise. Do you have a photo of this man, Cola? Amina asked. Ada nodded and showed one. Cola laughing over stew in the cartoon pepper apron. Amina's jaw worked, and then she said, We need to move. She stood and called out into the hallway. Tayo, she shouted. A tall man with a careful face appeared. We have a possible trafficking grab from the bus park. We need CCTV, ticket logs, and the side gate guard. Now! Ada stood too fast and almost fell. Amina caught her elbow. We will try, Amina said, but you must be ready. This is a hard road. People will lie. People will pretend not to see. But we will look. Ada nodded, tears hot her eyes. I will not sit down, she said. I will not be quiet. Good. Amina said, we need a mother who refuses to be told to calm down. They left the station together. The detective, the sergeant, and the mother, with rain hitting the wooden awning above the door. They climbed into a dusty sedan that hummed like a tired animal. Amina spoke into her radio, fast and clear. The car pulled into the stream of traffic, wipers beating. Ada clutched the picture and came on her phone like a talisman. They reached the bus park in under 15 minutes. The woman at the office looked surprised to see police. The guard with the scar tried to melt into the wall. Amina's eyes missed nothing. She asked for the CCTV officer. She asked for the list of all buses that had moved in the last hour. She asked to see the side gate and the warehouse road. Ada stood near the window and stared at the wet ground where she had last seen the Silver Star scarf. A gust of wind pushed rain through the open shutter and blew a small piece of paper across the floor. It hit her foot. She picked it up. It was a thin receipt in small, faded print from a private shuttle company. On it, a partial plate number, a timestamp, and a route code that Ada did not understand. Her heart started to race. She carried the paper to Amina. Amina read the line once. She read it again. Her eyes lifted to Ada's. This route code, she said, voice quiet. It is not to Benin City. Where then? Ada asked, throat tight. Amina's pen tapped the paper. She turned to Teo. Call the border desk, she said. Ask if any private shuttles went through the Sumer Road in the last 30 minutes. Teo lifted his radio, face going still. Rain beat harder on the roof. The room seemed to tilt. Ada gripped the back of a plastic chair to steady herself. Teo lowered the radio. They said yes, he said. A small shuttle, tinted windows, no official company name. Clear at the back lane. The partial plate matches. Ada's mouth went dry. The border, she whispered. Amina nodded once. Sameh, she said, toward Benin Republic. The world narrowed until all Ada could see was Nkem's scarf. Silver stars shining in her mind, getting smaller and smaller as a bus crossed a line that should have kept her safe. Amina's phone vibrated. She checked the screen, and her face changed again, becoming something like steel. They just used a SIM in your daughter's phone to ping a tower near Betagri, she said. It means a phone is moving west. Fast. Outside, a horn blared. The guard with the scar took a slow step backward toward the corridor, as if trying to slip away. Amina looked at Teo. Get him, she said, and locked the side gate down. Teo moved. The guard tried to run. Ada's breath snapped in her chest. She stared at the thin receipt in Amina's hand. Across the ink numbers, a drop of rain fell. It spread, blurring the route code for a second, and in that blur, Ada felt it. The first hard truth of the road they were now on. This was not a simple missing child case. This was a sale. And the man who had promised to marry her was the one who had made the deal. Detective, Ada whispered, voice breaking. What if? A shout cut her off. Teo's voice, sharp from the corridor, followed by the heavy sound of a door slamming open, then running feet, then the lights in the office flickered and went out. The darkness in the bus park office felt heavy, like it had weight. Outside, rain hit the roof in loud bursts. Somewhere in the corridor, someone yelled, Hold him! Don't let him out! Ada's heart slammed against her ribs. She could barely see Amina's face in the shadows, but she could hear the detective's voice, calm, clipped. Stay here, Ada. Don't move. Footsteps pounded, chairs scraped, and then a crash, metal hitting the floor. The guard with the scar was fighting hard in the flicker of emergency lights. Ada saw Teo pin him against the wall. The man kicked, cursed, but two more officers appeared, dragging him toward the main office. Amina stepped out into the corridor, her hand steady on the small torch clipped to her belt. Bring him here, she ordered. The guard was shoved into a chair, rain dripping from his shirt. His eyes darted between Ada and the detective. You opened a side gate for a bus not on the manifest. Amina said, Why? He spat on the floor. I don't know what you're talking about. Ada felt a flash of rage. She stepped forward, holding out the crumpled receipt she had found. This matches the bus. You let them through. My daughter was on it. The guard's eyes narrowed. That's not my problem, madam. People come and go every day. Amina leaned close, her voice dropping to something sharp enough to cut. We already know where that bus went. We can charge you for aiding trafficking right now. Or you can talk, and maybe you don't rot in a cell for the next 20 years. The man hesitated. His eyes shifted to Ada, then back to Amina. I just do what I'm told, he muttered. By who? Amina pressed. Kula, the guard said finally. He told me a woman from his church was sending her daughter on a special trip. Said not to log the bus in the manifest. He paid me. How much? The man shrugged. 50,000. Ada's stomach twisted. That was all it took for him to look away while her child was driven to her border. Amina's voice was still calm, but it carried weight now. Whereas Kola now, he was supposed to meet them at the next stop, the guard said. Somewhere near Agbra. That's all I know. Amina nodded to Teo. Get this man in custody. Contact the trafficking unit. And get me a car. Teo hauled the guard up by the arm and shoved him toward the holding area. When the corridor emptied, Ada gripped the edge of the desk. Detective, if they crossed that border. Amina didn't let her finish. We're not letting them, she said, pulling out her phone. But you need to prepare yourself. People in this network move fast. They know how to make someone disappear. The words hit Ada like a cold wind, but she straightened her shoulders. I will do whatever it takes, she said quietly. Minutes later, they were in the back of a police SUV, the engine growling as it pushed through the rain. Amina spoke into her radio, ordering roadblocks along the Lagos Badagry Expressway. She also contacted the border post at Sameh, telling them to hold any vehicle matching the bus's description. Ada sat forward, clutching her phone. She tried calling Kem again. Still no answer. She sent another text. I'm coming for you. Hold on. The detective's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then looked at Ada. Our team just spotted the bus on CCTV near Agbra. It stopped for less than 2 minutes. Then it left without your daughter. Ada's breath caught. Without her? Then where is she? Amina didn't answer right away. We'll find out, she said finally. The SUV's tires hissed on the wet road as they sped west, the headlights cutting through the downpour. Ada's mind raced. Why would they take Kem off the bus before the border? Was she already being moved to another vehicle? Or worse? Up ahead, a roadblock loomed, police in reflective vests waving cars to the side. The SUV slowed. One officer stepped forward to brief Amina. We stopped a white shuttle matching the partial plate, he said, but there were only 4 passengers, all adults, no teenage girl. Ada felt her knees go weak. The officer continued. Driver says he dropped a young girl at a warehouse in Agbra, told to wait there until another ride came for her. He claims a man named Chief is in charge. Amina's eyes narrowed. Chief, she repeated. I know that name. Ada gripped the seat. Who is he? A broker, Amina said, moves girls across borders. Very dangerous. The SUV took a sharp turn, splashing water against the curb. Ada stared out into the rain, every drop on the window blurring her vision. Somewhere ahead, in a warehouse that might smell like oil and fear, her daughter was waiting. If she was still safe. The detective's radio crackled again. We have eyes on the warehouse. A voice said. Lights are on. 2 men at the door. No sign of the girl from outside. Ada's pulse hammered. She turned to Amina. Then let's go get her. The detective's jaw tightened. We need to be smart. If we rush in and they move her before we get inside, she's gone. Ada looked ahead, rain running down the glass like tears. Then be smart fast, she whispered. The SUV rolled toward the dark outline of the warehouse. Somewhere inside, a door slammed and a shadow moved past a window. Amina's hand went to the door handle. Wait for my signal, she told the officers. We only get 1 shot at this. Ada clenched her fists. Her ears caught something faint. Through the rain, through the hum of the engine, like a muffled cry. And then the warehouse lights went out. The sudden blackout swallowed the warehouse in complete darkness, the glow from the SUV's headlights barely cutting into the rain-soaked night. "Power's out," Teo muttered from the front seat. "Could be deliberate." Ada's nails dug into her palms. "They're moving her," she said. "I know it." Amina's voice was calm, but her eyes were fixed on the building. "If they're killing the lights, they're either preparing to move or to hide." She reached for the radio. "Unit 2, cut off the back exit. No one leave that compound without me knowing." From somewhere inside, a metallic clang echoed, like a door being thrown open. Amina motioned to the officers. "We go in quiet. Teo, you're with me. Ada," she turned to her, voice firm. "You stay in the vehicle." "No," Ada said immediately. "That's my daughter in there." "I understand," Amina said, "but if you go in without training, you'll put both of you in more danger. You want her back? Let us work." Ada's mouth tightened, but she nodded. She knew this wasn't about pride. It was about getting Kem out alive. The officers slipped from the SUV, weapons low but ready, their boots splashing in shallow puddles. Amina moved like a shadow, her eyes scanning every window and doorway. Ada sat in the SUV's back seat, gripping her phone so tightly her hand ached. She thought of Kem's scarf with the silver stars, of the way her daughters laughed to use to fill their small flat. "Hold on, baby. Just hold on." The radio crackled again. "Unit 2 to command. We got movement at the rear loading dock. 2 men carrying something. Can't confirm if it's a girl." Ada's breath caught. Amina's voice came sharp through the radio. "Engage, but no shots unless fired upon." Shouting erupted in the distance. Short, sharp commands, the sound of feet hitting wet concrete. Ada couldn't stand it anymore. She cracked the SUV door and slipped out, keeping low. Rain soaked through her blouse instantly. She edged along the side of the building, following the muffled chaos toward the back. Through the gloom, she spotted movement. 2 bulky men hauling a small, struggling figure wrapped in a blanket toward a van with its engine already running. "Kem." Ada's voice tore from her throat before she could stop it. One of the men froze, then shoved the figure into the van's open door. The other swung his head toward Ada, eyes wide, and reached inside his jacket. "Police, drop it." Amina's voice sliced through the rain. She stepped from the shadows, weapon raised. Teo flanked her, his stance solid. The man hesitated. Too long. Teo was on him in 2 strides, tackling him to the ground. The other man jumped into the van's driver's seat and slammed the door. The van's tires screeched as it lurched forward. Amina darted toward it, but the vehicle swerved violently, clipping a stack of crates and sending them crashing to the ground. The chaos gave the driver just enough cover to race down the narrow service road, taillights glowing red in the rain. Ada's stomach twisted. She ran to the spot where the figure had been shoved inside, empty now except for a thin scrap of fabric caught on the van's door frame. It was a corner of Kem's Silver Star scarf. Ada clutched it to her chest as the reality crashed over her. The warehouse had been just a stop. They were still moving her, farther from reach. Amina was already on the radio, her voice low and controlled. "All units. APB on a white van, partial plate KTR, 6, heading south toward the Beta Gree Road. Repeat, intercept immediately." Ada stood in the rain, scarf clutched tight, her heart pounding her ears. Somewhere ahead, the van carrying her daughter was speeding toward the border, and this time, she feared there might not be another chance to catch it. The road to Beta Gree was slick and nearly empty, the rain turning the asphalt into a black mirror. The police SUV's engine roared as Amina pushed it hard, weaving past slow trucks. Ada sat in the back, soaked to the skin, the scrap of Kem's scarf clenched in her fist. Every few minutes, the radio hissed with updates. Unit 3 negative visual. Border checkpoint reports no white van yet. They're taking the back roads, Amina muttered, glancing at the map on her phone. Smuggling routes. Ada's voice was tight. "If they cross before you find them." "They won't," Amina said, though her tone was more determination than certainty. They sped past dark shops and shuttered petrol stations until Amina made a sudden turn down a narrow dirt road. There's a shortcut through Abil village, she told Teo. If they're avoiding checkpoints, they'll pass here. The SUV bounced over potholes, mud spraying up against the doors. Ada pressed her forehead to the cold glass, searching for any sign. A flash of headlights, a white shape against the dark. Then, faint in the distance, they saw it. 2 red taillights swaying with the bumps in the road. That's them, Teo said. Amina killed the SUV's headlights and slowed, keeping just enough distance. If they see us too soon, they'll ditch her. Ada's breath quickened. The van ahead took a sharp turn toward a row of old warehouses near the water. Why there? She whispered. Fisherman's dock, Amina replied. From there is a straight boat ride to Cotonou. As they approached, the van slowed, then backed into a wide doorway. The rain and darkness made it hard to see, but Ada caught a glimpse of a man jumping out and dragging a smaller figure toward the water. That's her, Ada gasped. Amina grabbed the radio. Unit 4, converge on the dock now. Quiet entry. But before the backup could arrive, a loud whistle pierced the air. Several men appeared from the shadows. 5, maybe 6, armed with pipes and machetes. They formed a loose wall between the dock and the approaching SUV. They know we're here, Teo said. Amina's jaw tightened. We don't have time to wait. In a heartbeat, she was out of the SUV. Teo right behind her. Ada, ignoring Amina's earlier warning, shoved her own door open and followed. The rain slapped against her face, the mud pulling at her shoes as she ran toward the figures by the water. A man with a pipe stepped forward, grinning. Police should mind their own business. Amina didn't hesitate. She swung her baton, cracking against his arm, and he dropped the pipe with a shout. Teo tackled another. The fight erupted fast, shouts and the metallic clatter of weapons hitting the ground. Ada ducked past the struggle, her eyes locked on the dock. She could see the van driver shoving Kem, still wrapped in a blanket, toward a waiting boat. "Kem!" she screamed. The driver turned, startled, and for a split second loosened his grip. Kem twisted, the blanket slipping enough for Ada to see her terrified face. "Mummy!" Ada lunged forward, but before she could reach them, another man stepped out from the shadows, tall, broad-shouldered, and wearing a gold chain. He grabbed Kem by the arm and yanked her into the boat. The driver jumped in after them. The engine sputtered, then roared to life. Ada skidded to the edge of the dock just as the boat began to pull away, rainwater splashing in her face. She was close enough to see the fear in her daughter's eyes, close enough to see the man with the gold chain smirk at her. Amina fought her way through the last of the men and reached Ada's side, breathless. "That's him," she said grimly. "That's Chief." The boat picked up speed, vanishing into the mist over the dark water. Ada's knees buckled. "They're taking her across," she whispered. Amina's hand tightened on her shoulder. "Then we follow them across." But the detective's eyes betrayed a flicker of doubt, because chasing a trafficker like Chief on open water in the middle of the night was a risk even the police rarely took. The wind off the lagoon was cold and sharp, carrying the smell of salt and fuel. The ripples left by Chief's boat stretched across the dark water like scars. Amina spoke into her radio, voice clipped. "Marine unit, this is Detective Yusuf. We have visual on Chief's boat heading southwest from Abil Dock. 2 adult males, 1 female minor on board. Repeat, this is an active trafficking transport." Static crackled. Then a voice replied, "Marine unit en route. ETA 15 minutes. 15 minutes, Ada repeated, her voice trembling with urgency. By then, they'll be across the border. Amina's jaw tightened. We don't wait. She turned to Teo. "Get us a boat. Now." The sergeant took off toward the row of wooden fishing sheds. Moments later, he returned with an older man in a raincoat. The man eyed them warily until Amina flashed her badge. "Police business. We need your fastest vessel." The fisherman spat into the rain. "Fastest I got is my own skiff. But the tide is strong tonight. You'll be risking capsizing." Amina glanced at Ada. "You don't have to come." "I'm coming," Ada said, cutting her off. "You think I'll sit on shore while they take her?" "No." The fisherman led them to a narrow wooden boat with a single outboard motor. It groaned as they stepped in. Ada's hand shook as she gripped the side, but her eyes never left the misty outline of Chief's boat ahead. "Hold tight," the fisherman said, yanking the starter cord. The motor sputtered, then caught, sending a vibration to the planks under their feet. They tore away from the dock, the rain pelting their faces. Every wave slapped against the hull, threatening to toss them sideways. Amina crouched low, her flashlight beam sweeping the water until it caught the glint of the gold chain on Chief's neck. "They're slowing," Teo shouted over the engine noise. Ada squinted. The boat ahead was nearing a low stretch of land where two smaller crafts waited. Shapes moved between them, more men. "They're switching boats," Amina said. "Smaller ones are harder to track." The fisherman gritted his teeth. "If they split, we'll lose them." "Then we get there before they do," Amina said. The skiff roared forward, closing the gap. Ada could hear Nkem's faint cries over the water now, thin but clear. Her chest clenched. "Hold on, baby," she yelled, even though she knew the wind would snatch her voice away. Chief spotted them then. His smirk vanished. He barked an order to the driver, who gunned their engine. The boat lurched ahead, but the sudden speed and choppy water worked against them. A hard wave slammed the hull, making it pitch violently. In that split second, Nkem stumbled toward the side. Chief yanked her back by the scarf, the silver stars flashing in the beam of Amina's flashlight. Ada's vision tunneled. She didn't think. She moved. She grabbed the coiled rope at her feet, swung it, and hurled it toward Chief's boat. The weighted end clattered against their bow. Teo seized the rope, bracing himself, and looped it around a cleat on the skiff. "Got 'em," he shouted. The two boats jerked together, the gap closing fast. Chief's men shouted, trying to hack the rope free with a knife. Amina didn't wait. She leapt, landing hard on the edge of Chief's boat. The struggle exploded instantly, her baton cracking against knuckles, the knife skittering over the deck. Ada could see Nkem just beyond the chaos, crouched low, eyes wide. But between them stood Chief, gold chain gleaming, a pistol now in his hand. "You take one more step," he said to Amina, and the girl's gone. Rain streamed down his face. The boat rocked underfoot. The distance between Ada and her daughter was only a few steps. Steps she knew she couldn't take without him noticing. And then Chief's finger began to tighten on the trigger. The world seemed to slow. The sway of the boat, the hiss of rain on the water, the steady curl of Chief's finger on the trigger. "Don't!" Ada shouted, her voice cracking through the storm. Chief's eyes flicked to her, just for a fraction of a second, and that was enough. Amina lunged forward, her baton snapping upward in a blur. The weapon smacked Chief's wrist with a sickening crack, sending the pistol tumbling into the black water. Chief roared in pain, stumbling back against the railing. Ada moved without thinking, scrambling across the slick deck toward Nkem. She grabbed her daughter and pulled her in close, wrapping both arms around her. "Mummy!" Nkem sobbed into her shoulder, trembling so hard Ada could feel it through her own soaked clothes. But there was no time to breathe. One of Chief's men grabbed Ada's arm from behind, yanking hard. Nkem screamed as Ada twisted to keep hold of her. Teo was there in an instant, tackling the man and shoving him against the deck. "Stay down," he barked, pressing him face first against the wet planks. Amina had Chief pinned against the railing, her forearm across his throat. "It's over," she growled. Chief's smirk returned, even through the pain. "You think this stops anything? I have 10 more boats, 10 more girls. She's just one." Ada's grip tightened around Nkem, rage burning through her fear. She wanted to hit him, to make him feel even a fraction of what she had felt these last hours. But Amina's sharp, commanding voice cut through her thoughts. "Teo, restrain him. We're bringing him in alive." The sergeant slapped cuffs on Chief's wrists. 2 more officers from the Marine unit pulled alongside, their lights cutting through the rain. "You're under arrest for human trafficking," Amina said, her voice steady and cold, "and for the abduction of this girl." Chief only laughed, a low, ugly sound. "Do you know how many people will pay to make this case disappear?" Amina didn't answer. She simply turned to Ada. We need to transfer you and Chem to the Marine Unit's boat now. It's safer. Ada nodded, though her body was still shaking. She helped Chem step carefully across the gap between the boats, the Marine officers steadying them. As Ada wrapped a blanket around her daughter, she whispered into her ear, "It's over now. I've got you." But even as she said the words, her eyes went back to Chief, sitting cuffed on the deck of the skiff, rain pouring over him, his smirk still there. She realized then that Amina's job wasn't done, because Chief wasn't just one man with one boat. He was part of something bigger, something that wouldn't end just because tonight had. Amina stepped onto the Marine boat last, her expression unreadable. "We've got him," she said, but there was a shadow in her voice. "Now we just have to make sure he stays caught." The boat's engine roared to life, turning back toward Lagos. Ada held Chem close, feeling the girl's heartbeat against her own. She didn't know what the trial would bring, or how deep Chief's connections ran. All she knew was that they had survived the water, and the real fight was about to begin on land. The Marine Unit's boat sliced through the dark waters toward Lagos, the city lights slowly emerging on the horizon. Ada sat in the cabin, and Chem curled into her side beneath a thick blanket. Every few minutes, Ada would stroke her daughter's damp hair, as if to reassure herself that she was still there, still breathing. But across the small space, Amina sat hunched over her phone, speaking in low, tense tones. Ada caught fragments, evidence chain, protective custody witness statements, and understood enough to know the danger wasn't over. When they reached the dock, the night air was heavy with the scent of diesel and wet wood. Officers escorted Chief off the boat first, his gold chain glinting under the floodlights. Even in handcuffs, he walked with that same infuriating calm, like a man convinced he'd be free by sunrise. Amina stayed close to him as they moved toward a waiting police van. "You're done, Chief," she said quietly. Chief turned his head just enough for Ada to hear him murmur, "You think Lagos courts will keep me? Watch and see." Those words stayed lodged in Ada's mind like a splinter. Inside the station, Chem was taken to a private room with a female officer for a medical check and a change into dry clothes. Ada gave her a small smile before following Amina into an interview room. "This is where we lock and case," Amina said, spreading photographs, receipts, and phone screenshots across the table. "Your statement needs to be detailed. Everything you saw, every conversation with Cola, every step at the bus park. We'll use it to connect him to Chief." Ada nodded, forcing herself to relive each moment. She spoke of the scarf, the bus route, the payment at the gate, and the van at the warehouse. By the time she finished, her voice was hoarse. Amina tapped one of the photos. "We've matched the plate number from your receipt to a private shuttle company used as a cover for trafficking runs. If we can link Cola to that company and the Chief, it's enough for prosecution." Ada leaned forward. "Then let's do it." But Amina hesitated. "There's a complication. Chief's lawyer is already at the courthouse filing for bail. He's claiming the girl, your daughter, was willingly traveling with him as part of a family arrangement." Ada's stomach dropped. "That's a lie." "I know," Amina said, "but without airtight evidence and with the money he can throw at this, there's a real risk he walks." Ada felt the room tilt. The thought of Chief back on the streets, free to prey on other children, made her blood run cold. "What do we need?" she asked. Amina's gaze was steady. "We need Cola, alive, in custody, and talking. If we get him before Chief's people hide him, he can connect every piece of this case. Without him, Chief's defense can paint you as a bitter ex dragging his name into a custody drama." Ada clenched her fists. "Then we find Cola." "That's the plan," Amina said, "but it has to be fast. My informant says Cola's been tipped off. He's planning to leave Lagos tonight." Ada's eyes narrowed. "Where?" Amina slid a phone across the table, grainy CCTV footage of a man in a cap and backpack, stepping into a black SUV. "He's heading toward the Northern Highway. If he crosses into Niger State, he's gone." Ada's heart pounded. "Then we have to move now." Amina rose from the table, already giving orders into her radio. "We intercept before he reaches Abadan. Roadblocks at Sagamu and Abeokuta junctions. Plainclothes units at all bus terminals. She turned back to Ada. You don't have to come. But Ada was already shaking her head. If he sees me, he'll know it's over. He'll talk. Amina studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right, but you stay in the car until I say otherwise. Minutes later, they were back on the road, sirens off, headlights dimmed. The city lights faded behind them, replaced by long stretches of wet, empty highway. The radio crackled. Unit 7. Target vehicle spotted at Ogun River Bridge. 2 occupants. Heading north at speed. Amina gripped the wheel tighter. We're closing in. Ada leaned forward, eyes fixed on the black ribbon of road ahead. Somewhere out there, the man who had promised her a future was running, taking with him the truth that could lock Chief away for good. Then up ahead, the glint of taillights appeared in the rain. That's him, Teo said. The SUV's engine growled as Amina pressed her foot down. The gap closed fast, and just as they were about to box him in, the black SUV swerved violently off the road, straight toward the trees. The screech of tires on wet earth cut through the night. The black SUV fishtailed wildly before disappearing into the thick stand of trees. Hold on. Amina shouted, wrenching the wheel. Their own vehicle skidded off the highway, headlights bouncing over roots and undergrowth. Branches slapped the windows. Ahead, Cola's SUV burst through a clearing before lurching to a stop, its front bumper wedged against a fallen tree. The driver's door flew open, and Cola bolted into the darkness. Teo was out of their car before it fully stopped. On foot, he yelled, chasing him. Amina followed, her flashlight cutting jagged lines through the trees. Ada sat for a heartbeat, gripping the door handle. She promised to stay in the car, but the thought of Cola slipping away again made her chest tighten until she could hardly breathe. She got out. The forest was a tangle of wet leaves and mud. She ran toward the sound of breaking branches, the beam of Amina's flashlight flickering ahead. Cola! Stop! Amina's voice rang out. Cola's silhouette appeared between 2 tree trunks, his backpack bouncing as he ran. He was heading for a footpath that would take him toward the river, toward escape. Think of Cam. Ada shouted. Her voice cracked. He hesitated just long enough to glance over his shoulder. I was thinking of her, he said, his voice low and bitter. She was worth more than you'll ever be. Rage exploded inside Ada. She surged forward, catching him off guard, slamming her shoulder into his side. They both went down hard into the mud. Before he could scramble up, Teo was there, pinning him to the ground. You're done, he growled, wrenching Cola's hands behind his back and snapping on the cuffs. Amina stepped in, breathing hard. Cola Adebayo, you're under arrest of conspiracy to commit human trafficking, aiding and abetting in the abduction of a minor. Cola spat into the mud. Chief will be out before morning, and I'll be out after him. We'll see, Amina said flatly. Back at the station, the interrogation room felt colder than before. Cola sat with his arms crossed, mud still streaked across his clothes. Amina laid out the evidence. CCTV from the bus park, the guard's confession, the shuttle receipt, phone logs linking him to Chief's network. This is enough to put you away for 20 years, Amina said. But if you give me everything on Chief, contacts, routes, bank accounts, we can talk about reducing your sentence. Cola stared at the table. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then his shoulders slumped. I want a deal. It took hours, but when he finally talked, it was like a dam breaking. Names, locations, transaction records, even a storage unit, and Coda knew where documents were kept. Everything Amina needed to tie Chief to a trafficking network stretching across 3 countries. By sunrise, Chief's bail application had been torn apart by the prosecutor's new evidence. He was ordered held without bail, pending trial. 2 weeks later, the trial began. Ada sat in the front row every day, and Kem beside her, holding her hand. She listened as the evidence was laid out piece by piece, as the witnesses spoke, as Cola's recorded confession was played in court. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, Ada felt her knees go weak. Chief was sentenced to life. Cola, under the terms of his deal, would serve 15 years with no parole. Outside the courthouse, reporters jostled for photographs, asking Ada for a statement. She only said, No sentence can undo what they did. But today, my daughter is safe, and so are the others they would have taken. That's enough for me. That night, back in their small flat, Ada made tea while Nkem drew at the table. The Silver Star scarf hung by the window, washed clean, but still frayed where it had been torn. Ada sat down, watching her daughter's pencil move across the page. "We've been through the worst," she said softly. Nkem looked up, a small, tired smile on her face. "But we came back." Ada reached across the table, taking her hand. "Yes, we came back." Outside, the city kept moving. Traffic, voices, the endless hum of Lagos life. But in that moment, their world was still.